Welcome to this brief tutorial. The module is Outsourcing Trends and Best Practice. I'm going to just be highlighting the key issues in this module, since most of you have been doing very well in the assignment and also the semester test. So I trust that most of you already have a good hang of the content of this module. So I'll just briefly go through it. The first thing in the first learning outcome is to understand what outsourcing is. So this is the definition of outsourcing. So it's a business practice of hiring a party outside a company to perform services and create goods that traditionally were performed in-house by the company's own employees and staff. So in other words, the company picks up something that they think they can just ask someone else to produce, or a third party in this case. When that happens, that's what we call outsourcing. So this section goes at length to give you more details regarding that. Some of the reasons for outsourcing is that there are lower operational and labor costs that the company ends up incurring because they've given someone else to do the work for them. Then also outsourcing and offshoring also enable companies to tap into and leverage a global knowledge base. So in other words, it allows you to use the knowledge that is found, let's say, in another countries or in another companies. So you take advantage of that. And these are also some of the other reasons for outsourcing. So there are quite a number of them, and it's very important for you to understand them. Then the implications simply means the consequences of outsourcing. So you'd see that the first one is outsourcing is easy to be replicated by the competition. That's the first one. Then also it leads to fragmentation and disintegration of the supply chain, inviting new competitors into the industry. Then also it also nurtures corporate complacence. So those are the three main implications of outsourcing. But if you search, you can also get some more. Then we look at the second learning outcome. So maybe before we go there, the key things in the first learning outcome is to understand or to be able to define outsourcing, what it is as a concept, then the reasons why businesses want to outsource, and also the consequences or the implications for outsourcing. Then the second thing, or the second learning outcome, is the benefits and pitfalls of outsourcing. We have done this many times. It was both in the assignment and also in the semester test. So I wouldn't spend much time on this, but it's important to understand that there are disadvantages and advantages of outsourcing, or what we call pros and cons. It's the same thing, referring to the issues regarding outsourcing. So, for example, advantages: improved focus on core business activities. That's usually the main one, where the business now is able to focus on its core activities and leave the support activities or the non-core activities to other parties to focus on. So that allows the business to maximize on what it's fundamentally based on, and it enables them to do that very well as well. Then these are also the other elements with regard to the advantages. Then the disadvantages: you can sometimes have service delivery issues of confidentiality and security, lack of flexibility, management difficulties, and instability. So those are the key disadvantages. But if you also search, you can also find even more advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing. Then we also have a checklist. In the notes I provided 10 things that the business needs to consider when looking for an outsourcing partner. The expertise to do the work, that's the first thing. Ease of communicating your needs. Then the necessity for control, speed of change in needs, trade-offs between cost and benefit, frequency of work. Then also, despite internal familiarity to the business, and biased external input enriches the quality of output. So that's another very important aspect when it comes to outsourcing, the issue of collaboration and also bringing new ideas. Then also ability to monitor performance. Then also management of contracts. So it's important also to be able to see how that is going to work out. Then also the risk of poor delivery. So sometimes there can be poor delivery of whatever good or service that would ever outsource. So it's very important to make sure that your outsourcing partner has got a good track record. Then also in learning outcome 5, we looked at the concepts of insourcing and co-sourcing. We've also asked this in the exams. also in the assignment, so most of you got it right. So insourcing, in this case now, we are outsourcing within the company itself. You see, so that's the biggest difference. Whereas outsourcing, we are outsourcing from outside the company. So that's the easiest way of looking at it. So in other words, in the business, we look for specific skills or specific departments. We assign them a specific product or service that they need to produce or deliver. So that's insourcing. Then there are also reasons why companies insource. Usually it's because they want to have control, they want to closely monitor what is being produced, as opposed to when you pure outsource, where you sort of everything is being done outside your out of your sight. But in sourcing, you're able to actually see and actually even control and monitor the production process. Then we've got what we call co-outsourcing. This is a mixture of the pure outsourcing, where you outsource from a third party, and also insourcing, where you are outsourcing from within the company. So that's co-outsourcing. Then the co-sourcing. Then there are also advantages of co-sourcing, as you can see. Reduce or control operating costs. Resources not available internally, so you'd want to use someone who is outside. Functions difficult to manage or out of control, so it's that you're struggling with, then you give to someone else to do it. Then there are also strategic advantages to co-sourcing. Improve business focus, access to capabilities, free resources for other purposes. You see, so this usually follows naturally just from the whole concept of outsourcing. Then the learning outcome 6 is on outsourcing risk management perspective. So in this learning outcome, we identify the risks of outsourcing. Then we also identify the ways to mitigate these risks. So for example, there's competitor risk, risk of delays, performance risk, financial viability risk, transition risk, security and confidentiality risk, political and reputation risk, and also many other ones that you can also look for. Then in this section, the decision making and risk management process, we look at how these risks can be overcome or mitigated. So that's what you will get in that particular section. So there's managing project risk, managing provider selection risk, managing contracting and negotiation risk, then also managing transition and setup risk, then managing performance risk, then managing financial reporting risk. So all these there are ways of managing them. Sometimes you might not managing them. You might not manage them 100%, but you can do a big difference by trying to mitigate these risks, because everything at the end of the day in business has got a risk, and that's where risk management comes into play. Then in learning outcome 7, we looked at the hidden and real costs of outsourcing. This was also in this assignment and also in the exam, and many of you did well, so I wouldn't repeat all of it. I'll just quickly mention that in terms of hidden costs, we've got cost of an outdated outsourcing strategy, cost of management and coordination of contractors, then cost of subpar inventory performance, then also there is cost of unplanned logistics activities and premium freight, then cost of inappropriate sales and operations planning, then there is also cost of poor or substandard quality, then cost of warranty, returns and allowances, then cost of supplier management, cost of cash flow, cost of unplanned and unforeseen risks. So you need to know at least 5 of those hidden costs. Then there are also real costs, which are also involved in outsourcing, so you also need to master them as well. Know at least 5 as well for the purposes of assignments and any other assessment. Okay, then we look at learning outcome 8, which looks at factors influencing the outsourcing decision, like what pushes companies to make a decision with regard to outsourcing. So this probably goes hand in hand with the advantages of outsourcing. So there is cost savings, the issues of pricing. Maybe you get a very good price when something is done outside of the company, the resource and technology, so you get exposed to good technology and resources outside the company, so that can be considered. The ability to meet deadlines, so when you choose an outsourcing partner, are they able to meet the deadlines? Let's say, for example, internally you are struggling, so you might want to use an external provider who might be able to help you meet those deadlines. But otherwise, if the external provider is going to struggle, then there's probably no need to use them, or you might need to look for someone else. Minimum supervision, limit the liabilities, trustworthiness, who will lead the team, that is the people in the third party who are going to be leading the outsourcing, the production of whatever you're outsourcing to them. Then the service level agreement, or SLA, then communication. So all these aspects, they need to be considered when you are choosing an outsourcing partner. You need to make sure that all these things, they are going to be favorable on your side. That's how is the factors usually that determine your choice of an outsourcing partner. Then we look at learning outcome 9, which talks about outsourcing trends and best practices. So it gives you an overview of what is happening globally in terms of outsourcing. What are the new developments? What are the changes? You see, then it gives you sort of some trends that are going to shape the 2020 market in terms of outsourcing, and I need you guys to master this. There are about 10 of them. One of them is artificial intelligence, which they call AI. Then there is the issue of social media. Then also robotic process automation. Then there is SaaS. It's a very interesting software. Then also diversification of BPO services. Then those 5 key ones. So you need to be able to explain these trends that are going to happen from 2020 this year going into the future. These things are going to shape outsourcing. Then we look at the last learning outcome, which looks at the functions to outsource. We look at what we call core and support functions. This is important because this learning outcome is very important because it covers a very important section of your assignment. So the key is to be able to identify what we call the functions in a business. This includes things like warehousing, logistics, HR, accounting, maybe IT and all those things. So each business has got what are called core functions and non-core functions. This varies from business to business, and you need to be able to identify what this is, you see, for each business, because it determines if they want to outsource, which ones to outsource. So usually a business would want to outsource the non-core functions because the core functions are very critical. They can't have them being done by someone else because they are the ones which sort of the very existence of the business is based upon, you see. So that's why it's important to identify the two. So this learning outcome focuses on on those distinctions, and I gave you guys an explanation of some of the commonly outsourced functions, but this, like what I said, this varies from business to business. So you would need to look at human resources, information technology or IT, accounting services, all those things, up until legal services, marketing research and all that. But they will vary from business to business. For example, a transporting business, logistics becomes a core function. It can't outsource it, you see. Whereas, let's say for an accounting firm, logistics, it becomes a non-core function. So it varies from business to business. So it's very important for you guys to understand this learning outcome, because you need to answer a question in your assignment which deals about this. But it's going to be a case study which you need you to apply. You look for a business that you are going to look at, be able to identify the core functions, the non-core or the support services, and be able to make suggestions in terms of outsourcing, you see. So in a nutshell, this is what your module is all about. This is what you need to be able to master. So far, you guys have done very well in the module, so I expect you guys to continue doing the same, especially given the assignment that is coming up. So we hope that you guys are going to do well, and I believe that with all this information you should be able to do well.